Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, text 41 to 49. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatoj Mudiraय. नष्टप्रायेषु अवत्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Text 41. Transcendentalists who are advanced in knowledge compare the body, which is made by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to a chariot. The senses are like the horses. The mind, the master of the senses, is like the reins. The object of the senses are the destination. Intelligence is the chariot driver, and consciousness, which spreads throughout the body, is the cause of the bondage in this material world. The 10 kinds of air acting within the body are compared to the spokes of the chariot's wheels, and the top and the bottom of the wheel itself are called religion and irreligion. The living entity in the body concept of life is the owner of the chariot. The Vedic mantra pranava is the bow, and the pure living entity himself is the arrow, and the target is the supreme being. In the conditioned stage, one's conceptions of life are sometimes polluted by passion and ignorance, which are exhibited by attachment, hostility, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, madness, false prestige, insults, fault-finding, deception, envy, intolerance, passion, bewilderment, hunger, and sleep. All of these are enemies. Sometimes one's conceptions are also polluted by goodness. As long as one has to accept a material body with its different parts and paraphernalia, which are not fully under one's control, one must have the lotus feet of his superior, namely his spiritual master and the spiritual master predecessor. By their mercy, one can sharpen the sword of knowledge, and with the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead mercies, one must then conquer the enemies mentioned above. In this way, the devotee should be able to merge into his own transcendental bliss, and then he may give up his body and resume his spiritual identity. Otherwise, if one doesn't take the shelter of Achyuta and Baladeva, then the senses acting as the horses and the intelligence acting as the driver, both being prone to material contamination, inattentively bring the body, which acts as the chariot, to the path of sense gratification. When one is thus attracted again by the rogue of Vaisa, eating, sleeping, and mating, the horses and chariot driver are thrown into the blinding dark well of the material existence, and one is again put into a dangerous and extremely fearful situation of repeated birth and death. According to the Vedas, there are two kinds of activities, pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti activities involve raising oneself from a lower to a higher condition of materialistic life, whereas nivritti means the cessation of material desire. Through pravritti activities, one suffers from material entanglement, but by nivritti activities, one is purified and becomes fit to enjoy eternal blissful life. Text 48 to 49. The ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifice known as Agnihotra Yajna, Darsa Yajna, Punarmasa Yajna, Chaturmasa Yajna, Pasu Yajna, and Soma Yajna are all symptomized by the killing of animals and the burning of the many valuables, especially food, grains, all for the fulfillment of material desires and the creation of anxiety. Performing such sacrifice, worshipping Vaisaveda, and performing the ceremony of Baliharana, which all supposedly constitute the goal of life, as well as constructing temple for demigods, building resting houses and gardens, digging wells for the distribution of water, establishing booths for the distribution of food, and performing activities for public welfare. These are all symptomized by attachment to material desire. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Babaji. Krishna Venu Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Please take over the call, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you all for joining today's session. So let me share my screen. Okay. So thank you for giving this opportunity to share few points from the Srila Prabhupada's purpose for today's Bhagavatam section. And thank you, Hamanga Mataji, for reading today's Bhagavatam slokas translations. We'll start with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschaptadeshtarani Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, titled Instructions for Civilized Human Beings, from slokas 41 to 49. So just to give a background, this is the conversation between Narada Muni and Yudhishthira Maharaj. So initially Narada Muni narrated the characteristics of Prahlad Maharaj, who is in Suddha Bhakti. So and Yudhishthira Maharaj is very happy and ecstatic. And then he asked about the Sanatan Dharma and Varnashrama Dharma. And Narada Muni in the last couple of chapters gave the roles and responsibilities of the four Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and then four ashramas, the Brahmacharya, Gurastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi. So, and then in the last chapter, Narada Muni mentioned that Brahmanas are very dear to the Supreme Lord. And in this chapter, Narada Muni is narrating the different grades of Brahmanas, like Brahmachari Brahmanas, Grostha Brahmanas, Vanaprastha Brahmanas, Sannyasi Brahmanas, like that. So he mentions that the Grostha Brahmanas are attached to fruitive activities, and the Vanaprastha Brahmanas are attracted by austerities and penances, and the Brahmachari Brahmanas are interested in studying Vedas, and the Sannyasi Brahmanas are performs different types of yoga, like Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, specifically, like that. And he also mentions that, the householder should not perform elaborated arrangements for Shraddha ceremonies. Instead, simply distribute Krishna Prasadam. So, and avoid the irreligion activities. So, do not work very hard to accumulate money. So, those kind of things. So, Narada Muni mentions. And then the last sloka, he spoke about um, the importance of the human body, saying that the human form of the his body meant for understanding the self and the supreme self, like that. So the person who is purified with that knowledge, so for them, what is the reason for whom does a foolish, greedy person maintain the body for sense gratification? So continuing that, so Narada Muni is saying that the transcendentalists who are advanced in knowledge, so comparing this body, so like he says that the body is a chariot, the senses are like the horses, mind is the reins, and the object of the senses are the destination. Intelligence is chariot driver, like that. There's a good comparison is giving our body, mind, and the senses, like that. And Prabhupada mentions that so if we use the body given by Krishna, so in the destination is senses, then it will cause the bondage in this material world. So if we use this body, mind, intelligence, senses, everything in performing the materialistic activities, then it will cause the bondage and will continue the great suffering of the Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, birth, death, old age diseases. So that's Prabhupada stresses that instead we should engage our body, mind, intelligence, everything in spiritual activities. So then that will cause the liberation. So, and Prabhupada also quotes Kathopanishad, the similar information is saying that Atmanam Ratinam Vidhi, like, this, the body is the Sariram Ratam Evacha, like, the body is the chariot, and Atmanam, like, our individual living entity is the occupant of the chariot, and the driver is the intelligence, Buddhim tu Saradam Vidhi, like, and the mind is the destination to reach the, determination to reach the destination. So like that. So, and that destination, if we can make that destination Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam, so if it is Lord Vishnu, which is the supreme goal of life, that should be our destination. So otherwise, if we engage our body, mind, and senses in the materialist activities, then it will push us through the repeated birth and death, which is very miserable. Dukkha dosha anudarshanam. So that's why Prabhupada says that, this body is given, and now we have two ways. So one is, if we engage them in materialist activities, then we go down, like, to the darkest region of ignorance. If we engage in bhakti, so we'll go back home, back to Godhead. So engaging bhakti means associating with saintly personalities and serving them like that. So then we will be liberated. Mat sevam dwaram ahuri mukti. So when we associate with the saintly personalities, serve them nicely, then vimukti, like then we'll go back home, back to God. So instead, if we associate with the people who are indulging in sense gratification activities, especially opposite gender attraction, then tamodwaram. So tamodwaram. So it will open the door of hellish planets. So tamodwaram yositam sangi sangam. So that's why we should be very cautious in our association with whom we are associating like that. So we should be very eager to take the direction of the spiritual master, or the instructions that Krishna gave in the scriptures. Then Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gave instructions, Sarva Dharman Paritejaya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Then what he will do is Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Masucha. So he will give liberation. So then we will be out from this Mrityu Samsara Vartamani. So we'll be breaking the cycle of birth and death and go back home, back to God. So that's the advice is given in the scriptures. So if we can take advantage, then we are good. Otherwise, Srila Narottam Das Thakur in his bhajan says that Manushya Janma Paya, like, this human form of the body, which is very rare, valuable, which we got it after we getting Radha Krishna na bhajiya. Like if we don't worship Krishna, then it is compared to Janiya Suniya Vishakhain. So knowingly we are drinking poison. So we know that this is poison, but we are drinking. So that's how it is, like, after getting this human form of birth, if we don't engage in Krishna consciousness, then we are knowingly wasting this great opportunity. So like that. So then in Narada Muni continues the comparison saying that, so we have 10 kinds of eggs, and Prabhupada mentioned the purport, like, prana, apana, samana, vyana, like that. So they are compared to the spokes of the chariot wheels. And sometimes we engage this life air or our body in performing sometimes religious activities, sometimes irreligious activities. So they are compared as the top and bottom of the these wheels of the chariot. And we are the owner of the chariot. And then, so Vedic mantra, pranava is the bow. Like this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is the bow. Then what is the arrow? Ourself is the arrow. The pure living entity is ourself is the arrow. So we become arrow, and we use this chanting of Hare Krishna Maha mantra as the bow, and then we throw ourselves at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So that's the goal of this human life. So the target is going back home, back to Godhead, or taking the shelter of the Supreme Lord. So for that, we take the help of this Vedic mantra, the chanting of Hare Krishna Maha mantra. In the next slokas 43 to 44, So Narada Muni is mentioning that when we are in conditioned stage, so sometimes our consciousness is polluted by passion and ignorance, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. So that are exhibited by the attachment, hostility, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, like that. And sometimes our consciousness is also polluted by goodness, sattva. These three modes, sattva, rajo, tamoguna. Prabhupada mentions that these are hindrances if we are working hard to go back home back to it. So that's why we should be very cautious. So about these three modes, sattva, rajo, tamoguna. So sometimes it is polluted by passion or ignorance, and sometimes goodness also. So that's why Prabhupada says that we should not be attached to being a good man also. Of course, we should not be attached as a bad man, definitely, but even good man also. So that's why Prabhupada says that in this material world, so-called goodness and badness are the are the cause of the bondage. So it will keep us in this material world only. So it will not. It is a hindrance for us to go back home, back to God. So I think one time I heard a nice story from one of the great devotee. But he says that once upon a there is a king, and the king wants to retire, and he calls his son, and he says that I would like to retire. You take over the kingdom. And the prince says that, yeah, sure, I'll do that. But before that, I would like to go the neighboring kingdoms and observe how they are ruling, so that I'll get a good experience, and then I can come back and then rule the kingdom nicely. Then he agrees. Then this boy, along with his two other boy friends, they go to the neighboring kingdom. So, and the other two boys are, one is the minister's son and another is the commander-in-chief's son. So they three goes to the other kingdom, and then they were roaming in the other kingdom, observing how the ruling is going on. And then they heard that that kingdom king has a very beautiful daughter. So this prince want to meet her. So when there is no one and looking at opportunity, he enters into the palace and meets this girl, and then they both fell in love. Similarly, the minister's son also fell in love with the daughter of the minister in that kingdom. So similarly, commander-in-chief son also fell in love with another girl in that kingdom. So these three boys are meeting the three girls, and then after a couple of days, the king of that kingdom noticed it, observed it. So he came to know about it. Then he arrested all three boys and put them in prison. Then this prince says that, to the king of that kingdom, says that, how can you treat me same as the other two persons? Because I am the son of the king. Then the king agrees that, and what he does is he uses the golden shackles to bind the prince, and uses the silver shackles to bind the minister's son, and uses the iron shackles to bind the commander-in-chief's son. But ultimately, they are all in the prison only. So there is no real freedom. So they have to be in the prison and continue to go through the rules and regulation of that prison. So similarly, this sattva, raja, tamoguna, they are like a shackles, golden shackles or silver shackle or iron shackles for the conditioned living entity in this material world. So whichever the shackle we have, we still continue to be in this material world and then go through the repeated cycle of birth and death. So that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Nistraigunya Bhavajna. So we have to rise above the three modes. So then only we can go back home, back to God. Otherwise, if we are in Sattva Guna, Urdhvam Gacchanti Sattvasti, like, we will be elevated to the upper planetary systems. Maybe we'll have a longer life or great facilities, comforts like that. If we are in the mode of ignorance, then we'll fall down to the lower species and suffer more. But our goal should be going back home, back to Godhead. So for that, so we have to take up this process of Krishna consciousness. Then we will become very fortunate person. So Mahaprabhu says that Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan. So that fortunate person is who is that fortunate person? Guru Krishna Prasada Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. So when we take the shelter of the Guru, then he will give the Krishna Prasada. So that is the Bhakti Lata Bija. So that Bhakti Krishna, that by the mercy of the Guru, we will get it. So that's what here he says that in the next sloka, that as long as we accept the material body with the different parts and peripherals which are not fully under one's control, so we should always be at the lotus feet of the superiors, namely spiritual master. So we should be taking the guidance of the advanced Vaishnavas and Guru. So because we are not at controlled our senses or the mind. So as long as we are not controlled the senses and the mind, so we should continue to take the association of the great saintly personalities and be inspired and progress in the path of bhakti. So then says that by their mercy, one can sharpen the sword of the knowledge. And then with that power, so one can conquer the enemies like lust, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, madam, acharyam. So in this way, devotees merge in his own trans service, and then he may give up his body and resume his spiritual identity. So here is the process of giving up the body and going back home, back to where it is given. And Prabhupada also mentions in this purport, quoting Bhagavad Gita sloka, Tvakta deham punarjanma naiti mameti sochna. So one can give up the body. So when they understand Krishna's transcendental pastimes and his appearance, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. So when we are engaged in the process of Krishna consciousness by hearing Krishna Katha, chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, so then we can go back home, back to God. We can give up this body and then go back home, back to Godhead. So that is the highest perfection of the life. And for that we take all the facilities, take advantage of all the facilities like, the spiritual master, saintly personalities, and the spiritual master instructions applying in our life, because Guru is the captain, Guru Karna Dharam, like that. And then the instructions of Krishna are like a favorable breeze. So we being in the boat of this body, so taking the facilities or advantage of all the things that we have, like Krishna's instructions, association of the devotees, and then guidance of spiritual master, all these things, then we can be able to cross over the ocean. Then we can get the mercy of the Supreme Lord, Achyuta Balaha. So we will get the strength from Krishna so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. So that strength will come only when we please the spiritual master or the saintly personalities. Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. So then we will get that strength. So, and also we have to, with their mercy, we can sharpen the knowledge also. Just simply having the knowledge may not be helpful, is not sufficient. But when we sharpen the knowledge by serving the spiritual master, then with that knowledge we can cut the ignorance or destroy our ignorance. And then we can get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So then how a commander, while doing the battle, being in the battle, uses the chariot and horses to conquer the enemy. And once he conquers the enemy, then he will give up his chariot and horses. So similarly, we also taking advantage of all these facilities, like chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, association of the devotees, guidance from the spiritual master. So then we get the mercy of the Krishna, and then we give up this chariot, the gross body or subtle body, and then we can go back home, back to Godhead, like that. So that's what Narada Muni is saying here. And in the text 46, say that if one doesn't take shelter of Achyuta and Baladeva, then the senses acting as the horses and the intelligence acting as the driver, so they are become prone to material contaminations. Then it will indulge in sense gratification. So then that is the path of sense gratification. So if we are attracted by these rogues of Vishaya, like ahara nidra bhayamaitunamcha, eating, sleeping, and matting, then what happens? We are thrown into the blinding dark well of material existence, tamodwaram. So we'll be entering into the hellish planets or falling down to the lower species where we'll have a more suffering. So extremely fearful situation. So that here Narada Muni is testing dangerous and extremely fearful situation of repeated birth and death. So that's why we have to take shelter of the Achyuta and Baladeva. And Prabhupada mentions that the same Achyuta and Baladeva, now in this Kali Yuga, they came as Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Rajendra Nandana Sei, Sachisuta Haila Sei, Balarama Haila Nitai. So they came as Gaur Nitai, and they are more merciful than Achyuta and Baladeva, Krishna and Balaram. So they gave this process of Krishna consciousness where even a sinful personality also can take advantage of it and then liberated. Papita piyatachila harinama uddharila. So they gave this wonderful process. And what is the proof that a sinful person can go back home back to Godhead or become pure devotees? Tara Sakshi Jagai Matai. So the proof is the Jagai and Madai, who are very sinful personalities, but by taking the shelter of Achyuta and Baladeva, Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they became a great devotees. So that's how we derive our strength. And then we can go back home back to Godhead. And in the 47th sloka, Narada Muni is saying that there are two kinds of activities according to the Vedas, pravritti and nivritti. So what is pravritti? Pravritti activities involves rising oneself from lower to higher condition of materialistic life. So they perform some good activities, which are materialistic good activities. So in that way, they will rise from lower to the higher conditions, like becoming rich or elevated to the higher planetary systems, having a longer life, more comforts, like that. But nivritti means stopping all material activities. So of course, bhakti is engaging all our senses, mind and body and activities in the for the pleasure of Krishna. We perform the activities, but all spiritual activities for the pleasure of Krishna. So, but when one does the good activities, of course, pravritti, so even though they're materialistic, but there is a chance for them because they are pious. So when somebody goes and preach them this Krishna consciousness, it's possible to take up the process. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that there are 4 types of people who are Sukritino Arjuna. They are pious people. So they take the shelter of Krishna. Ardo Ardati Gnani Chapartashava, Jignasu Gnani Chapartasha. Like, somebody may be in distress, but since they are pious, they take shelter of Krishna to overcome from that distress condition. So similarly, Ardhardi, looking for wealth, like Dhruva Maharaj. So he was distressed and he was also looking for a greater kingdom than his great grandfather. And he performed bhakti. So due to that, he purified. And when Lord Vishnu appeared and asked for any boon, he says that Swamin Krutardo Asmin Varam Na Ayacha. So he doesn't want it because he's purified. So when one takes shelter of Krishna or the process of bhakti, then they will not have any interest in being in this material world or indulging in any material activities like that. So they'll more pleased or they are happy serving Krishna or performing activities for the pleasure of Krishna, like that. And in the last sloka, the last 2 slokas for today, so Narada Muni mentions that these ritualistic ceremonies like Agni Hotra, Darsa Yajna, Purnamasa Yajna, or Chaturmasa, these are all like, symptomized by the killing of animals and burning of many valuables, especially fruit grains. They're all like for the fulfillment of material desires and the creation of anxiety. So if we have some desire, we want to be elevated to the higher planetary systems, these yajnas are recommended. Of course, In Kali Yuga, the only yajna is recommended is chanting of the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But for these ceremonies, performing such ceremonies, worshipping Vaiswadeva, or performing ceremony Baliharana, like this, constructing temples for demigods, like building. So all these are, great pious activities, distribution of foods. So they're all symptomizing by attachment to material desires. They're all attachment to material desires. So if we are attached to these material desires, then we'll continue to go through the miserable and dangerous repeated birth and death. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshana darshana. So that's why here in this slokas, Prabhupada stresses that we should utilize this valuable and important human form of the life that was given for us in engaging all our body and mind and senses for the pleasure of Krishna. So then in that way, so we can achieve the highest goal of the human life, going back home, back to God. So that's what Narada Muni mentioning here, and Prabhupada stresses in the purports. So I'll pause it here. Thank you all for joining this session. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhuji.